Good, Frank? All right, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. We will call the Wright County Board Commissioners meeting to order. It is February 23rd, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know about everybody else, but that loud voice from all the deputies out there, kind of neat. All right, the minutes from February 16th. Does anybody have any changes, suggestions?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes from last week.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to add for the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Actually, I would like to add something to the
You
agenda.
want to add something? Oh, yes.
I would like to add under administration, items for consideration, B, board retreat.
Mr. Chair, I will amend my motion to adopt your item under items for consideration, board retreat.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to have pulled for the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's consent agenda as presented.
Actually, I'd like to pull something.
You do? Wait till after you get a motion,
You're too much of a hurry. I'm giving everybody a chance to talk first. Actually, I'd like to pull Finance 1, the acceptance of the 29th Certificate of Achievement. I just think that's something that should be talked about a little bit more than just on consent agenda. It's not an easy task.
Yep.
Okay, you can do it now.
All right, so now I will amend my motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of A1.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Regarding that, acceptance of 2019 Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's the 5th year in a row the county has done it. Our hats off to our financial group, the Auditor Treasurer's Office, to do what needs to be done in order to get that. It's not every county that gets that. So I think it's something that our Auditor Treasurers and Financial Department should be proud of doing that. So that's just wanted that to be out and about, not hidden in a...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And you're right. It's quite an achievement.
So congratulations to that group, and we look forward to them getting that for the next 30 years.
Is that a new expectation?
Oh, yeah. Last 5 years, I think there's no reason why they can't continue it.
There you go. Keep the bar high.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the acceptance of the, accept the 2019 Certificate of Achievement then.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Again, thanks to the Finance Department. No, I guess we're gonna, this is gonna be a roast, right?
Well, Mr. Chair, I thought the sheriff was going to sing for Captain Anselman as he...
He promised me too.
Wow, this is going to be good then.
If this is a roast, where's the marshmallows?
No singing. No singing out loud.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we're here this morning. I'm here this morning to celebrate the upcoming retirement of Captain Anselman. I think we as leaders in the organization recognize that the number one asset of any business or organization is our personnel. And today we celebrate 33 years of Captain Anselman being present. I think that it stands as a testament. We've got former sheriffs in the room, former members of the command staff, family, some friends. And so I think that it stands as a testament to why we're all here today. I think that it's interesting, Dan is one of 2 remaining members of the sheriff's office that was actually hired by Sheriff Wolf. And it's interesting if you also look back through his tenure that every sheriff preceding Sheriff Wolf saw value in Dan and what he was able to do and what he was able to accomplish. If you look at Sheriff Ozempa, promoted him to sergeant. Sheriff Miller promoted him to lieutenant. Sheriff Haggerty promoted him to captain, and I guess I'm the one that gets to kick him out the door. You know, it's interesting. I often talk about servant leadership, and I just want to say a few words about Dan, and I told him I'd keep it together today. But obviously, Dan has been one of my supervisors throughout the vast majority of my career. Whether I was a deputy on the street or a young patrol sergeant, I could always go to Dan's office, whether it was for advice, keeping them posted on something that happened. But Dan was always one of those people that just pushed everything to the side, turned his chair. You know, I think we get so busy sometimes people pop into my office and I'm like on my computer and looking over my glasses like, what do you need? But Dan has never been like that. He's always taken the time, separated himself from his job, and few people have the ability to really make others around them feel important. And Dan's always had that gift in our office. As I've talked about servant leadership as you want to define it in a human and a leader, I think that's always been Captain Anselman. He's given a lot to our office, and this is not going to be an easy position for us to replace and fill. Dan's taken 33 years of experience with him. He's been a member of the command staff for 20 years. And so I think that Dan has, not in a creepy way, but I think that he has earned the title that some of us younger people in the sheriff's office have coined him Uncle Dan. Because, well, he is Grandpa Dan too, but you know, as we seek input and look to blaze our own path going forward and how it is that we're going to move forward, I know in the last 2 years I've leaned heavily on Dan, and it's daily that I have conversations with Dan. So personally, I'm going to miss his presence in our office, but his wife is going to have all of him now. So I wish you luck. You can call us for emotional support. But I want to present this plaque to Captain Anselman for 33 years of stellar performance with the Wright County Sheriff's Office, and I am truly going to miss you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. I told the sheriff he made me cry, I was going to kick him in the leg. I think I got to kick him in both legs after that one. But your words are much appreciated. Thank you. It's been a good career. Growing in the county, growing up in the county that I got to serve for 33 years is amazing. So thank you for everybody allowing me to continue to work for Wright County. I love Wright County, always will support the Sheriff's Office. This has been my dream job, and once again, I want to thank all the citizens, the board members, and everything for what they've done for me and the community over the past 3 decades. So thank you very much. And I made it! Thank you!
And Trudy, do you have his list all set for things you haven't yet?
He's making some promises on suppers and.
Oh, is he? You really want him cooking?
the only promise I made is I'm growing a ponytail and I'm getting a tattoo. So, we'll see what happens.
Now, I want to see that ponytail.
Why? 'Cause I don't think it's gonna happen.
How about the tattoo?
Yeah, we'll see.
Where?
So, thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Just-
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Mr. Chair, can we make a comment or two on our own here?
I would think so, as long as you don't embarrass them too much.
That's already been done, so my hat's off.
Oh, we got a different connection. I'll go back to 1993 when I started at the sheriff's office as a deputy and Dan was one of my field training officers. And we had a couple interesting interactions with people, and I'll keep their names out of it, but all I'll do is mention the one person's dog's name, which was Windsor. So that's enough said. If you want to know the rest, we could talk about that later. But there was a couple other cases where there was canine tracks that were very lengthy and involved that you and your partner helped out in, and I really appreciated from day one, 93, the field training experience. Everything Sheriff Derringer said we saw on the street, that was true. Taking the time to work with us and help us and the patience to work with new recruits, that's very necessary in the business.
Thank you,
So
Commissioner.
enjoy your 99%, and we know what that means.
99.8 to be honest.
All right, very good. Thank you.
bet.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. It's been a pleasure knowing you for a lot of years. So, you've always been top notch.
And let me know when you get bored, and I'll bring a couple vehicles over for you to work on.
Sounds good. My shop rate just went up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Unless there's somebody else here that wants to embarrass Dan.
I guess we get a rain check on the singing by the sheriff.
We have the actual roasting at our office on Thursday afternoon, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, if you would like.
Chief, make sure, Chief Troy, make sure you videotape the singing by the sheriff, because we really should YouTube that at the roast.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
I'd like to say a few words, if
Yes.
I may.
Yes.
Yes.
It was 21 years ago, I stood here and announced my retirement.
Really?
I was 55 years old. Dan is now 55 years old, so that's a good age to retire. I wish him well. He's done well. And one thing I'm going to ask him after we have a few adult beverages, he worked for 5 different sheriffs and was loyal to every one of them. But I'm going to ask Dan someday, who was your favorite? Save the fun stuff for Thursday because we all have stories to talk about Dan. And Daniel, Captain Dan, Captain Anselman. But when I wanted to talk to him, it's like a parent going, Daniel, come in here, I want to talk to you. But he was loyal, he bleeds brown, like we all do in this room. And Dan, you've done well. I'm proud of you. I know you'll keep busy. Talented person outside of the sheriff's office. So congratulations. Appreciate all of your support. We're all the sheriffs.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right,
Everybody.
9:07, a little bit late. Virgil, you with us this morning?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners.
Use your
Yeah, Bob,
outside voice.
What's that?
You gotta use your outside voice.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, Mr. Chair, they moved the highway department to the moon.
All right, I'll use my loud voice then. We have one item for you to consider this morning. It's approve a resolution for Silver Creek Township for local road improvement program. And last week, you approved 9 different local agency resolutions, but theirs hadn't been submitted in time for last week's meeting. So this is being brought forward today for your consideration.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of support for sponsorship for Silver Creek Township for the local road improvement application.
I will,
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
resolution.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, resolution. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Mr. Detchen.
Oh, the most popular man in Wright County.
Yeah.
Second to Captain Anselman.
You got, you
Tough
got,
act to follow there.
you got 2 minutes to talk about ditches.
That might be too much. Yeah, today I have a resolution to approve a low bid of $3,115, or $315,361.28 from Molnau Trucking for the Wright County culverts along County Ditch number 10. If you can see from the bid recommendation from ISG, Molnau Trucking was by far the lowest bid. Highway was in on that process, agreed. We checked references and everything, so looking to approve that. And that would be, all those costs would be paid for by the road authority, so Wright County Highway Department, not the benefit of landowners.
Oh, these are, so these are just on the counties and not on any of the township roads?
Yeah, it's lowering 2 county culverts and then replacing 1 along.
So there's just 3 of them then?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the low bid of $315,361.28 for Melnow Trucking for culvert replacements along County Ditch 10.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Leiter. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I mean, substantially lower than the highest bid.
Yes, oh, definitely.
You know, so, yeah, it was a great number.
And it did come in below the engineer's estimate too, which is good.
So yeah, hopefully it'll go without a hitch.
Everything does.
They don't find anything after they dig up those ditches, or dig up those culverts.
Mr. Chair, in 18 months, I understand Mr. Detchen's going to give us a wonderful tour of Ditch 10 here on some road tour and show all this, it's, at that point, it'll be a decade's worth of work
Yes.
to get it to completion.
Look a lot different, that's for sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's been on our table kind of since we came on board, so it's,
Well, you know, the Parks Department has this huge canoe that they can rent from this company. So, you know, he could tour us all in that canoe.
After a good rain, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be interesting to see how I guess we'd have to portage a few times, but.
All right, any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
I thought we'd four-wheel it.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, just help with the record. What would be the funding source to pay for that? County sheriff is.
the highway department is,
Highway department?
yep.
They budgeted, and I think Virgil's still on here, so they already had it budgeted for this.
'Cause I think he had even a little bit more than that when we went into budget. I think he had like 350,000, I think is when we discussed it, something like that.
Yeah, Virgil?
Yeah, I can speak to that. As long as you can hear me with my outside voice here, I'll say we did budget $500,000 in our local levy budget this year. So this is significant savings. But with that said, we've got about a dozen other bids to open yet, so we'll see where some of the other projects come in at, but it is good to see this one come in so well under budget.
Great. Yeah, it's always nice to have things coming in under budget. All right, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. I guess we will see you at 9:30.
You have a little bit of time here yet.
Oh,
Still our thumbs, huh?
let's see, so that's a public hearing.
So you get employee recognition.
You know, that's at 10, and I can't really can't do that.
Talk about the board retreat.
Yeah, I guess we talk about the board retreat, just do all the items for consideration, I guess, get those done with.
Or the
Go that route.
advisory committee or something for 10 minutes. I mean, get those out of the way,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
Well, let's start with board retreat. I would like to have a treat for the board members, and Mr.
Calendar's
Kelly,
out.
administrator. We can have a facilitator come and help us go through things. One of my goals is, for this retreat, is with the two new commissioners to go over our plan for the upcoming years, some of the things that we did with the group we had in here.
Strategic planning.
Yeah, the strategic planning and things that came out of that, so that we're all on the same page, and then see if there's new things that the new commissioners like to see added or changed or that sort of stuff. Like to do it probably towards the end of March, first part of April. Is there any suggestions regarding having a facilitator do this? We can get somebody from University of Minnesota. We can use the one that we've used in the past so we can keep something consistent. We can not hire somebody. It's up to the board on what you'd like to see.
Mr. Chair, I think it is kind of nice to have a facilitator, but, you know, unless there's someone in-house that can kind of direct us through this process, I don't know.
I guess from the previous time, I think if we do use a facilitator, I would just say 50% of the time should be with a facilitator, 50% of the time without a facilitator, because I think the facilitator was great in helping us stir the conversations that we needed to have from a strategic planning aspects of it, but I think the meat and potatoes happened on the second part of it after the facilitator left and everybody kind of put their input in and their guard was down a little bit more. So I guess it would be kind of one of the things where we'd maybe start out with a twofold piece.
Who did you have as facilitator?
Was it Gary?
Last year we had Craig Waldron do a
Waldron,
group
correct.
with the board and myself, and I believe it was June or July last year. Prior to that, in March, we had worked with Infotech, which is a larger firm, for our 4-day session. So I don't know that that's...
It's a 4-day session?
That's what we did last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not advocating for that
no.
here. I'm just kind of giving the overview of last year's
Oh,
activity.
That was the strategic planning where we
Right.
brought in townships and the cities
Okay.
to make sure everybody was kind of on the same page with the county.
And all the department heads, and so
Yeah,
it was,
the department,
it was
yeah.
4 intense
So you're only
days.
looking for one
Yeah.
day
Yeah,
or
no,
a few hours
just
or
for the
something?
board and, you know, to kind of go over what we did accomplish in those
Okay.
planning
Well, and a lot of
meetings
it,
and stuff.
Mr. Chair, I think a lot of it we discussed last time too, which Craig was great about, is talking about workflow and expectations and understanding the dynamic of how you as the board work with administration and kind of getting that understand and how to achieve your goals as a board holistically. And it was kind of, that was the building blocks that we went through in that.
I kind of like the idea of sticking with the same person because that way he
Yeah.
can look at
Yep.
what we set for goals and what we've accomplished or haven't accomplished and why we haven't accomplished it.
I think he did a nice job, and you're right, we don't need Infotech to come in
No,
and facilitate
no.
anything, because we've been through that process. But to help guide us, like Derek said, you know, part of it, it can be with a facilitator, and then we can
Yep.
meet on our own.
Mr. Chair, I guess I would kind of try to see if we could get something from like the week of March 29th to April 2nd, if Craig has something available that week. I think which Tuesday did we cancel in March?
The last one, the 30th.
And
Do you guys want to keep that one off then still, or do you want to
I
try?
won't be around.
Okay, so you want the whole, then let's go,
Maybe the week after Easter, which is the 5th through the,
the only day that I'd be open that day would be the 5th, otherwise I'm out.
Yep, and I'd be the 5th or the 7th.
5th is good for me. The 5th is good for me.
Easter Monday?
Anybody have a problem with that?
I guess that one would work for me, that
What?
Monday,
the 5th?
the 5th.
And then you're gone.
Yeah, I'm gone after that, yeah, for a while, so. Otherwise, you'd have to wait till about the 19th, 20th, 21st. Otherwise, you'd have to go the week of the 22nd to the 26th would be good too, of March. If you want to go sooner than later.
Well,
Oh,
the
March.
fifth, I kind of, if you're gone, leaving, your mind's not gonna be,
Right.
so then let's plan
But there's,
for,
yeah, so
I mean, we don't have to do this right away, so let's plan for right around, what did you say?
19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd,
So why don't we see,
What day
April.
of April?
so why don't we see what, Craig has available? And we can bring that back to the board.
21st won't work for me.
Otherwise, like you said, if you want to go sooner, we can meet the 22nd through the 26th of March.
Yeah, I guess,
I just shoot those 2 weeks. Try to see what he has available, April 19th through the 23rd and March 22nd through the 26th. See what he has.
Okay. Good.
Okay, I
and
guess-
then anything that people would like to have, talked about at the retreat, please email me, and then we'll get that as part of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, for those that weren't at the other one, has somebody got
Yeah.
a copy of maybe the previous agenda you could send out just to give us some idea and perspective on what direction?
Or
it
are
went?
there minutes or something from,
So, there's really high-level minutes from the perspective of the items that we discussed, and a lot of it was, the agenda was literally, we talked about communications between the board and strategic planning. And
that's what I guess I would like
Yeah,
to know,
there-
what your strategic planning,
There was something that he had provided us as a recap afterwards, so.
a lot of it comes down to that stuff from Infotech in terms of our mission statement, and then trying to beat down on the commissioner's goals and how your goals relate to our mission statement and what things that we maybe need to consider going forward into the budgets this year and ongoing. So there's just kind of have to be able to have an opportunity to everybody to kind of pick their brains so that information's.
and some of it is in the handbook where, it talks about the value streams and that kind of thing, so some of that is captured there.
oh, okay.
That was a result of the strategic planning process.
But yeah, we should be able to get them a
Yeah.
copy. Probably wouldn't hurt for all of us to review that
Right,
Sure.
yeah.
and figure what, we said this? Why didn't we accomplish this yet? And I don't think that's the case. I'm sure we accomplished everything we set out to do.
Well, let's just say that we finished the strategic planning the day before we went into emergency shutdown, so. Things
Yeah.
kind of took a different turn after that.
Yeah, it's been an unusual year.
Yeah.
And just so the new commissioners understand, because even from when I came on the board and they were there and I was the new one, we've changed the approach that we've gone to strategic planning a few different times. And we're trying to find the right vehicle for our strategic planning. I'm hoping that this one really, really works for us. The one before, it was getting there, but we're trying to slowly improve that process and being able to implement it into our budgeting and into the decisions that we make holistically.
We made more specific, and, if you want to say strategic, but that really, it got more specific. So it was good. It was good that way, defined.
All right, so you got your
Got my marching orders. Yep.
Look to see it when he's available and bring it back to hopefully next week at the board meeting.
Sounds good. I'll send out a bunch of documents to the board.
All right,
from
thank
last
you.
year.
Thank
And
you.
again, anything that, after you see that, anything you want added to it, let us know. All right, Matt, we get to talk about one of your favorite subjects. Football? It's your only subject. No, I thought you lived, dreamt, breathed ditches.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint you too much with the truth. I might actually let Greg, if he's on, take over to start it since it is a public hearing. I want to make sure the whole process goes smoothly.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We're here for an obstruction hearing pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103E.075. The ditch coordinator was notified by one of our contractors removing the trees out there that there were some obstructions on the Gilmore lateral, specifically between stations 1 and 15. After finding that information, as you know, during our workshop meeting, we immediately scheduled this public hearing for today at 9:30. The property owners on both sides of the Gilmore lateral have been noticed by certified mail as required by statute. I believe Matt has talked to both of them, but this is a public hearing. So, Mr. Chair, you can open it for public comment if any of the interested landowners are there.
Do you want to explain what the obstruction was or anything to that effect?
Matt, do you want to take that over?
Yeah, I can. There was obstructions on both sides of the lateral there. On the south side, along the Clammers property. I've been speaking with Wayne. He actually did call me last night, let me know that he did get all the stuff out of there, I think last night or sometime during the day. So I haven't gone out there and inspected it yet, but just letting you know about that. But on that side, there was an outhouse, there were some concrete chunks, there was some other debris like wire, and then his trailers were backed up all the way to the ditch edge, so he could move those out of the way, and so the tree removal guys could get through. And then on the north side is the Gruenhagen's property. There was a big pile of fencing and metal scrap along one side of the ditch that the tree removal guys couldn't work around.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Quick question before we go into this public hearing. Does the removal of like the metal or any of these other things, is that going to charge back to the benefited rolls, or is it the landowner themselves? Maybe that Attorney Chrysler can answer that question.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, the purpose of this hearing is to give the people that put the obstruction there an opportunity to remove it in a reasonable amount of time. And if they don't, then if the ditch authority has to remove it, we assess it specifically back to those property owners. So this is a process that we go through to charge it specifically to one person, so it doesn't hit the whole benefit rolls. So that's why we felt it was prudent to go through this process versus just removing it in general.
Commissioner Weather?
Yeah, Greg, how much time do they actually have to remove the obstructions? Does it stated anywhere, or?
We gave them at least 10 days notice, correct, Matt? In the certified mailing. And then in our proposed order we gave you, Matt had talked to the property owners. They thought they could do it relatively quickly. So we were giving them till the end of this Sunday to get it done.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's a lot of things to get out of there, but it's enough. And with the warmer weather, they should be just fine being able to get it out. I think we're giving them in excess of 2 weeks from the time they were notified to get this stuff out of there.
So if there was a snowstorm or something with a lot of snow, you would have given them more time, or you would?
We could, but yeah, I mean, it's got to be reasonable.
Okay.
Reasonableness is the criteria here. So I think given what we have out there, till the end of Sunday would be reasonable.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have anything? Yeah. Okay, we'll open up the public hearing. Does anybody from the public want to speak at all? Anybody from the public would like to speak? Third and last time. Anybody from the public that would like to speak? If not, we will close the public hearing.
And I
Mr. Chair, with that, I think under your authority as the ditch authority for Wright County Ditch 10, I think the board could consider, and I would recommend approval of the proposed order we gave the board for removal of obstructions pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103E.075, and specifically giving the property owners on both sides of the Gilmore lateral until Sunday, February 28, 2021 at 5 p.m. to remove the obstructions. In talking with Matt, it's our understanding, I think the obstructions will be removed from then. They already could have been removed, but this is just a fallback. So if it's not removed by then, we can go in and do it. But if they are removed, the order basically comes moot and we're not going to do anything.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the obstruction order in accordance with 103E dot some other numbers.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussion with the board? And this is just regular, it's not a resolution?
Mr. Chair, it's just a regular order, so a motion would be in order.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Matt. That was one of the quickest ditch conversations we've ever had.
Public hearing out yet.
So you'll continue to have all ditches that quickly, right? All righty. All right, so our next big thing is at 10 o'clock. Oh my God.
Back to the advisory.
More items.
Well, I guess,
Items for consideration.
yeah, we'll go into items for consideration. Item 1, rescind reclassification of Sheriff's Office Administration position. Looking at Robert Rules of Order, in order to discuss this, there has to be a motion and a second for there to be discussion on this.
I'll make a motion for discussion to rescind the reclassification of the Sheriff's Office Administrator position.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Wider. All right, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just a little background as to how we got where we're at today. So I'll start with, in January, I was appointed to a Personnel Committee meeting to hear the proposal from the Health and Human Services Director about reclassification of 3 to 5 positions in her office. Commissioner Vetch and I were on that committee. And as part of that, we heard the Health and Human Services Director make reference to the Sheriff's Office Administrator position several times, and it was in writing in the proposal as to part of the reasoning for bringing the motion forward. So from there, I thought, well, what we ended up doing that day is denying the reclassification request, which then led to a moratorium on further reclassifications of positions in Wright County. So having that in mind as part of the proposal in reference to that other position, that's what led to my inquiry and research into that position. So I'll go back and kind of follow the money trail, so to speak. And it starts in April 2018 when the county board voted to have a job classification study in Wright County for all the jobs in Wright County. So that was $60,000, $60,400 was the cost. And then there was a questionnaire for Wright County employees as part of this classification study with the consultant firm to fill out a questionnaire about their positions if they wished. And there were some deadlines that went along with that, which included June 17th, that they had a time frame to appeal the process. And the consultant was looking at the end of July as having completed the appeals on whoever chose to submit one. So we had one for this position that was referenced in the Health and Human Services proposal, which I'll call, it was a was and a is. I have basically two exhibits, their job descriptions. The was the business manager, and the is what it turned into, a sheriff's office administrator position. So for reference, it was kind of all about points in this study. There was points given, a grading system to the positions. So it started out that the business manager position was rated at 515. And that employee and supervisor decided, which was within their right in the process, to appeal that grading position. So they did their appeal, and the consultant firm looked at it and made some modifications that brought it to the level of 537. So then we fast forward to January of 2020 when the appeals were over, things were decided, and this went into play for county employees in Wright County. Now then, in October of 2020, there was a proposal made by the employee and office head to, well, it went to a personnel committee, and then they recommended reclassifying the position, which was brought to a county board meeting on October 20th. So what was referenced there is, and I have a copy of the job descriptions, which is the was, the business manager, and the is, which is the sheriff's office administrator descriptions. And this is an important part of the issue, because this is what's referenced in when there's reclassifications, is what is the job description and how does it differ. So in looking at that, there's several sections here that I looked at. It starts out general definition of work. And it starts out, performs complex professional work is what the position was. And what the position is now, it starts out, performs difficult professional work. So that paragraph is, the was kind of a financial focus, and the current one is more of broad scope as far as supervision. The was references divisional supervision, and the is references continuous supervision. Then we have the qualification requirements on both, which are the same verbatim. Then we got essential functions, which under the was, there's 10 individual lines and or paragraphs in that section. 5 of them on the was are verbatim to the is essential functions. Now, one thing that's interesting, one of the functions on the was includes this: develops, reviews, and applies policies and procedures, including emergency preparedness, disaster recovery, business continuity, and risk mitigation for the department office. So that is what the was essential functions. That section is not included in the is, the new position. I haven't heard if there's somebody else taking on those responsibilities, which are apparently important to have in place, but that is interestingly missing from the is. Now there's added expanded duties per se under essential functions for the is, which talks about develops, recommends, and administers all sheriff's office budget. Then we flip to the back. It's for the was, we have knowledge, skills, and abilities. So on the was part, it talks about comprehensive knowledge of principles and practices. And under the is, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Is, again, is what the job got switched to. It says knowledge of administrative practices rather than comprehensive, which was the old description. Now there's 2 lines in the is that are repeated, and I don't know the relevance or importance, but it's verbal and written communication skill sufficient to effectively present information and respond to questions from a wide variety of audiences. This is mentioned twice in the same paragraph for the is, and mentioned once for verbatim in the was. Under the education experience for the was, that's before the reclassification, it's verbatim to the is and what it was switched to. Under physical requirements, for the was and the is verbatim. Under special requirements, now this is interesting, under the was, there's no background check required. Under the is, must be able to pass a background investigation. I happen to know everybody working there has to pass a background investigation, so I don't know why that is not included in the was, but it isn't, and it's part of the is. So that's the description that was presented for the part of the wait for the board to decide in this October meeting, and they voted 4-0. I don't know who was missing, but the vote was to approve the reclassification. So at that meeting, we had Health and Human Services Director that said, well, we have a business manager position that we would like reclassified also. So the board approved this from the was to the is at the Sheriff's Office Administrator position and said, we will look at this reclassification, reevaluation request from Health and Human Services. Well, what the raise amounted to for this position was over $5, which is over $10,000 a year for this employee from what they were making a year ago. So now what this has created is we have Health and Human Services that came forward to the Personnel Committee and wanted to make the same or similar case. But what kind of changed, I understood at that initial proposal in October that there was one business manager spot, but when Commissioner Vetch clarified it with them, it was 3 to 5 positions that were affected here. So it's kind of been the trickle down, but in fairness, I had to take a look at what started it all and go back to the beginning of the study, the appeal process, what was all involved, that there was a opportunity to appeal that went through. They got a little bit of a raise and then changed the name, but really the job didn't change. I went through the 2 descriptions here. So along with that, the timing of this in 2020, Wright County was handing out $16.5 million of COVID relief to citizens and the businesses that needed it. And then on the other hand, where the board gave this large raise to this person, which then caused a trickle-down effect of others that came forward and said, we think we should have the same thing. So the climate didn't match up here, what was going on in the county, and in conversations I've had with Wright County employees, constituents, and business owners in the county, I haven't found anybody that's supported or defended this position. So for these reasons that I've explained, that's why I have the motion to rescind this reclassification. Not to say in the future that we won't take a look and do it, but I would make a motion to have it added to that moratorium to be readdressed at another time, which we already have in place.
Mr. Chair?
Jamie's got her hand up too.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Vetch.
So first things first, just so the public and Commissioner Catchmark understands, as the personnel policy states, if you would rescind this position and bring it back to its previous level, this person would not, their wage would not go backwards. They would be flat, they would be redlined at the current position that they're at. So there's no taxpayer savings, first and foremost, by doing so. All right. Really, if anything, you're going to create potential litigation and actually cost the county further funds by doing so. The other side of it that is interesting, have you talked with the sheriff in the last couple of weeks regarding this, or have you talked to the person in that position about this position?
No, I haven't.
Because I think it would be, really to do your due diligence. I think that would be very important before making a decision of this magnitude without having a conversation and really getting an understanding and a scope of what they do. This was something that we struggled with going through the comping class. I mean, literally, I think it was, and Minister Kelly can help me, I think we had, 60% of the jobs were appealed through the comping class in the job descriptions.
Huge.
Because no matter how you do it, it's messy. It is extraordinarily messy, and let me tell you, Lee and our HR director, Sean Johnson, agonized over it for weeks to try and find the exact right piece to it. Now, the sheriff's department, being an elected official, has a totally different animal in terms of dealing with job descriptions than that of the non-elected offices, because they have a certain level of freedom and autonomy that other departments do not have. And that is what brought this one forward, because he is shifting with the time with his office and is constantly changing that position. And that is the reason we put that position and modified it, because Shauna is working extraordinarily hard, and we're not doing it for the person, we're doing it for the position. That position has modified to take on many more roles and actually saving the county taxpayers money by actually moving those staff in those positions to other aspects within the sheriff's department, because she is able to automate it so much that it is no longer, that we no longer need people to do it, because we have infrastructure to do it. And that is to the magnitude of that position. And those are the conversations that I really wish you would have with the sheriff and with Shauna, and really getting a hands-on understanding of what she does, versus just looking at it from a piece of paper aspect. Because I get it, when you put those words and you're trying to develop a job description, those are 100,000-foot words that are as blanketed as other duties as assigned. I mean, but unfortunately, that's the way as government with pay equity laws, that's how we determine points to positions that equal dollars that we make.
And Minnesota's the only state that requires it.
Yep.
Jamie,
Really?
and then Mr. Sean Johnson, you're on deck.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. I just wanted to say, since our Personnel Committee meeting was referenced, that we were invited to bring at the time that the Sheriff's Office Administrator position was being heard at the board. My contention is not that the Sheriff's Office Administrator should have that bump or that change. I just, my feeling was that the Health and Human Services managers and the business manager were we're at the same situation. So I did not bring it to, I'm in no way wanting to, rescind anything. It's the board's decision, but I was just bringing forward that we have similar positions that we feel would also merit a second look, which happened. So I just wanted to say that we're not here to, I wasn't saying that I didn't feel that it was fair for the Sheriff's Office Administrator, just that we were looking for consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
What do you have to add to this regarding what had taken place?
Well, as I mentioned previously in the Personnel Committee, there's internal and external factors that we have to look into, and that's the reason why we had Baker Tilly reevaluate these positions. Also, too, there is looking at the Sheriff's Office and its structure. He made it abundantly clear in the Sheriff's Office Administrator that that position is number 3 in his command structure. And also, too, because of additional supervision responsibilities, that was the deciding factor on moving that position from a grade 18 to a grade 19. And that's what the response was I got back from Baker Tilly regarding that. Also, too, in HHS, the challenge we have is you have 5 supervisors that are equals. If the HHS decided to bump one person up to second in command, we would have a different discussion. But that's an organizational discussion that, Jamie would have to make. So it's predicated on organizational structure and hierarchy as well.
Mr. Chair,
Just
and
a moment.
Sean.
Oh, do you have a question for Sean?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
And Sean, can you speak to the fact that we open ourselves up to litigation if a person is working out of classification and out of job scope? We open ourselves up to litigation. So we have to take that into consideration when the information is presented to us, and if there's merit to it and we don't take action on it, we open ourselves up to litigation.
You're correct, Commissioner Besch. There's always a possibility of litigation, and also, too, if you would decide to revert back to that position, may also open us up to potential litigation as well.
And, Mr. Chair, Derek made that good point that we are the only state in the union that has to assign points for our employees. And, we need to stick with that. It's very specific how these numbers are come up with, and depends on educational level, but one of the top ones is level of supervision. So if you're the third person in in the department that the third in command, essentially, and third in line, then that bumps you up. Whereas if you're in another department and you're one of the same, you know, you could call them kind of the command staff, but if one is bumped up to having the second in command, that changes things. But as long as they're still essentially kind of linear, then you can't necessarily give them a different set of points. So it's, you know, it's not, it's complex for sure. I mean, when we're dealing with these things, it's not always easy decisions by any means. And certainly when we went through that whole process of, with Baker Tilly and the class and comm study, it was painstaking. It was, I mean, there was,
So you can take,
it was very painstaking, and it was very thorough. And then even then, because of delays, by the time you got it all done, then all of a sudden you ended up with all these appeals because it took a while. And so yeah, that's.
so you can thank the legislators for being so complicated. Jamie, you have your hand up. Do you still have another question or statement?
Oh, no, I just wanted to make a comment based on Sean's comment. And we have 5 managers, and they're not supervisors, they're managers, and 2 are at grade 19 and 3 are at grade 18. So they're not all the same, and that's what we were looking to address was that parallel. So just to be clear, they're not all the same. There's 219 and 318, step 18. That's all.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
And commissioners, if I could add also too, if you look at our comp and classification study, grades 17, 18, and 19 are really where kind of that upper level manager positions are. And then when you get to grade 20, that's where you start to see the department heads, you know, grades 20 to 25. So there is a hierarchical, how it was set up, how the comp and class was put together. There is a reasoning for that, why we have the, you know, the different gradings. And, you know, there is no perfect comp and class system. And, you know, Baker Tilly, they have pros and cons with theirs, but it's what we're working with. And, you know, I would say that the positions that we have right now are probably properly placed where they should be.
Mr. Chair, one last comment, because there's a dual fold from a litigation piece. There's the personnel side of it, that you have a litigation risk, and then you have the sheriff's statutory rights to manage his office, and you also do that dance with his statutory abilities to manage his office if you basically as a board try to hold back to that. I mean, in terms of
Prevent, kind of.
yeah, by preventing him to be able to operate his office as he deems necessary, because then it becomes under a judge's purview to decide what ability are we enabling him or disabling him to offer law enforcement within the county. I mean, that's where there's a delicate dance to it. I know we've always, every couple of years, had that statute shared with us, and I don't even know if our new commissioners have it out there. Is maybe Brian or Greg's on there that they can actually share the statute with it out there.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, you're speaking regarding 387.20. And there's a subdivision under that, subdivision 7, which talks about appeal on salary and budget if the sheriff is dissatisfied with action the county board takes in setting the amount of the sheriff's salary or his budget. So it is stated there in statute. I think that's what you're trying to reference, Commissioner Vetch.
Repeat the statute?
Sure. In fact, I'll shoot it out to the full board if that's helpful. It's 387.20. And then you have a subdivision 7 farther down.
Yeah. It's really high level, but I think it was designed for that because I think the intent of it is for the interpretation by a judge to be the moderator between county board and sheriffs in terms of deciding what is fair or not fair, per se, to that. But anytime you want to prevent going to there, because anytime you enter into litigation, everybody loses, because at the end of the day, the sheriff's going to defend himself with county taxpayer dollars, and the county board's going to defend themselves with county taxpayer dollars. Did anybody save any money? No. especially when you're talking about small amounts of money. I mean, I guess if you're talking over hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, but I tell you, with the rate of attorneys at $300 an hour, you'll burn through $10,000 in a snap of a finger.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. Do you have much more?
Oh, just in response to what we've heard so far.
Yeah, I know, but it just, we can hold this off and continue it after our employees.
Sure, if we're on the time
Full of
schedule,
years.
if we
So
can reopen it, sure.
And I will.
Unless it's gonna be real short.
Well, one could lead to another, so you want
So
to time out? That's fine.
Let's just,
I think we're almost to the point of finishing this here, Mr. Chair. I think I would rather just finish out a conversation, and, Mr. Chair, because I'm going to say that I've taken this kind of personal, because this is a decision that I did a lot of homework then, I've done a lot of homework now, and I stand behind my decision that I made then, and I stand behind my decision made now. And to me, your move by doing so is accusing me of not doing my homework and not trying to be doing my due diligence for Wright County taxpayer dollars. I find that offensive. And for you to try and unring a bell, I mean, and you didn't even have to do the due diligence of speaking with the sheriff or the person in that position. I mean, to me, I will say that it almost seems more personal than it is professional.
Can I respond, Mr. Chair?
yes, Commissioner Ketchmark.
So I went by what everybody else had to review throughout this process, and I wasn't looking to have another open panel and have testimony from other people. If we're gonna do that, then we could ask constituents and business owners to weigh in on it too, if we're gonna go the route to other department heads and human resources. But we had the documentation that was in place, and we can't really ad lib now. It's kind of going beyond the scope to talk about the how the one office can do their job or not because of a different switching in the words here that amounted to $10,000 to start. That's every year after this, potentially with the raise. And to a lot of people, that's not a small amount of money. And it's within the Robert Rules of Order that we're allowed to bring this up and rescind it. And it seems like if one department is working under a different set of rules, then that should have been spelled out at the study to say, you folks are exempt because of these rules, elected official, but it wasn't. They were held to the same standard as far as the appeal process and the deadlines and the whole thing. So they tried one time, they got the score raised a little bit, and then 9-10 months later came back and readdressed it, and nobody ever said, you're exempt. No, it went through the process the same way then, and it should follow the same way now. And I'm not going to be afraid of litigation because of the right thing according to taxpayers here, because they'll speak up. I guess that's the office head's decision. If they think it's worth a $5 plus an hour raise and $10,000 of taxpayer money, then have at it. But I'm not going to back down because of the threat of litigation for what the constituents and other county employees that I've talked to and business owners in the county agree with.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll call the question.
So we have a motion and a second to rescind reclassification of Sheriff's Office Administration position. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion fails for 1 to 4. Alrighty. On to our Wright County employees and group of the years. So I'll let you kick this off, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With COVID being a factor still, we had to do our process a little bit differently than we did in past years for our Employee of the Year and Group of the Year awards. So we did receive a large number of nominations this year and had our committee select in past years. And the way we went about presenting it, I guess, this year was to create a video that was John and Frank worked on. So I think we'll proceed with the video now, and then we can go over the other nominations once we're done with the video, if that works. So I should mention, we did have 2 Employees of the Year this year. Alan Wilczek from Administration, our Facility Services Director, and Heather Lemieux, Assistant Finance Director. Our Group of the Year this year was the Wright County COVID-19 Incident Response Team. So with that, Frank, if you would.
And this is also being streamed out, correct?
Yep.
I'm John Haller from Admin, and I nominated Heather Lemieux because I know that in the year of COVID, we had a lot of changes and people were doing things that weren't necessarily part of their job description. And I think Heather went way above and beyond what most people would have been able to tolerate, to be honest with you. The county commissioners received more than $16 million in CARES Act funding and determined they were going to give almost half of that away to schools, small businesses, affiliate groups, and nonprofits. And someone had to oversee all of that. And the CARES Act came with a ton of proprietary work that needed to be done as far as the reporting went. And if people didn't have all the proper information or if they weren't eligible for the funds, Heather was the one who had to really step up and take care of that. In addition to that, the small business, there was a glitch, a fundamental glitch at the very beginning, and Heather had to reach out to about 150 businesses and tell them that what they had been told initially was wrong. So a lot of people, I'm sure the committee had a hard time this year, but a lot of people really stepped up this year, and I think Heather went above and beyond the call of duty and is very deserving of being one of the Employees of the Year for 2020.
Hello everyone, I'm honored to receive this award. I would like to thank John Haller for the nomination. I feel that this award is in recognition of the entire finance team as everyone took their turn taking calls from businesses and field any additional questions that they have. I would also like to recognize everyone on the COVID and the CARES committee meeting for their contribution in the success of these 2 programs. Again, thank you everyone.
Well, it's an honor to nominate, to be one of the nominators for Alan Wilczek for Wright County Employee of the Year. To say the least, the last year, and I would say longer, has been enjoyable to watch Alan work and put together, 3 buildings and also redesign his staff. It's something that, most people would, when they're in his role, it would be momentous to do 1 building in 20 years, let alone be the project manager on all 3 buildings. And to watch him do it, to work with the contractors, to work with all the department heads, to work with judges, to work with everyone involved, at least with the Justice Center that I was intricately involved with, was fun to watch. And I know the impact that he had on his staff and kept things so positive. Really allowed the buildings to get completed in a timely fashion during some very uncertain circumstances with COVID and everything else going on in our society today. And so it's an honor for me to be one of the nominators for Alan, and super excited to have him be selected as one of the award winners.
I felt like it was important to nominate Alan this year for Employee of the Year. I'm not somebody that would normally reach out and do something like that. But I've just started noticing in the last year and a half the major projects that he was working on, the constant changes, the departments, inside, outside, external agencies, all the work that he was doing, and his work ethic is just top notch. So I started putting it together and I went, gosh, I know nothing. So I reached out to Mike McMillan, who has just been involved in the building they just completed, and said, can you help me? Because I see this side of him when he's in the office and all these things that he's doing, And I'm watching him, and I thought, I don't even have, 10% of what he's doing out there with all of these buildings. I just thought it was a huge take for a job that he has done. And he has done it so well, and again, has taken it, he's so humble and takes it with all these changes and frustrations, such a great role model. So I was so glad that Mike really took the reins and really wrote what exactly has occurred with Alan over this last year or so. But again, I think Alan is just so deserving. I think he's well respected through the county. I think his staff respects him, and I think he's got a great staff, which again, he has built on in the last few years that he has been here. So I think he's well deserving of this nomination, and and I think we all appreciate him.
I nominated Alan for the Wright County Employee of the Year for the following reasons. Alan has demonstrated his ability to multitask, stay organized, maintain professionalism, and provide excellent customer service for both internal and external customers. Alan has exceeded expectations for existing buildings as well as the constant changes surrounding the new buildings. Alan has maintained professionalism and provides quick response times to all of our departmental needs. Alan continues to impress me with his excellent leadership skills. He is always willing to assist with situations that arise and provides a solid solution to any problem. Alan was instrumental in the success of setting up a marriage booth when the counters closed, and the only way to service these customers was face-to-face by statute. We were able to continue to serve the citizens of Wright County in a safe way and provide quality customer service with the counters closed. Alan has many excellent qualities, and it's been a pleasure working with him. He always finds time to assist and responds timely. Alan has gone above and beyond this year, and he's doing an outstanding job. And I just want to say congratulations, Alan.
First, I want to say thank you to those who nominated me for this recognition and to the committee for selecting me to be the recipient of the award. There are a number of deserving staff. It's truly an honor, and I greatly appreciate it. In 2016, after spending some time in my position, I quickly realized that there'd be some challenges and likely some structure changes that I would want to make. After some time, I communicated my plans with Lee and appreciate all the support I received from both him and the board. I knew it would be a couple-year process to get the facilities group operating the way it should be. What I didn't know were coming were the construction projects and COVID-19. As we all know, 2020 is a challenging year for almost everyone in the county, state, country, and quite honestly the world. I feel grateful to be working in an organization with amazing employees that are dedicated to serving the needs of the public and each other. The facilities team are some of the best examples of that. In the midst of working hard and trying to stay committed to the construction of the Justice Center, the Sheriff's Office Training Center, and the new Government Center, I relied on the dedication of my team to carry out the needs of both the public and what I referred to my team's customers, the rest of the departments and county staff. After a mandatory couple weeks of rotating them in and out, our team worked extremely hard to be sure safety protocols were in place at our facilities, barriers were constructed at service counters, departments had special cleaning procedures and requests, cubicles were reconfigured and modified, walk-up windows installed, etc., etc. The team was on site and worked hard to make all those things happen. There's no remote staffing rotation for our team. All of these special projects happening while doing their jobs to maintain mechanicals, repair the facilities, and take care of all the things that come along with sites ranging from a jail to a radio tower. Special thank you to Pete Kyle, Matt Arrett, Kevin Worcester, Rob Klimek, John Pregler, and all of our maintenance techs for taking care of the needs of our customers, our departments. I truly could not have been successful in 2020 without your work and all of your support. With normal facilities activities still happening, COVID-19 impacts to our sites, and over $100 million in construction projects underway at the same time, it was a stressful and extremely busy year. Having confidence in the facilities team, Contiguity Group, RJM Construction, and BKV made it all work. We had great working group partnerships with district courts, departments in the Justice Center, the Sheriff's Office, the FBI, and all the county departments to come together and get through the challenges. I'd also like to thank Sue, Lee, and the county board for trusting me in making recommendations related to facilities and trusting my judgment in what I thought was best. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife and kids, as there were many nights and weekends scrambling to manage work, school, family life, and all the things that come along with having 3 boys in sports. as well as sneaking away for a few hunting and fishing getaways when I could. I truly believe family life, creating memories with kids, and providing every opportunity I can, keeping that work-life balance is essential. 2020 was difficult, but I'm grateful for the support and the understanding and trying to keep that balance as best I can. I haven't worked a day remotely, and I greatly appreciate being able to do that. I take a great deal of personal pride in doing my job well and carrying my share of the load here at the county. Thank you again to those who nominated me for this recognition and to those that selected me to receive it. 2021 appears to be another challenging year, but I look forward to everything it brings, moving into a new government center and moving forward as one Wright County. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the employee group of the year.
I thought we were doing it all.
I'm Patty Malachek. I work in Health and Human Services in the Public Health Department as a case aide. I nominated the COVID-19 response team for Employee Group of the Year. I think it goes without saying that the entire county should recognize the work of the team. Looking at the criteria for this nomination, the employees should show exemplary achievement and perform in their jobs and other related duties within and beyond their own offices. They came together to handle our response to a global pandemic. We have all been doing our jobs the best we can in unfamiliar and uncomfortable circumstances while learning new ways to do our jobs. This team put their usual work on the back burner to make sure this response was handled properly. They inspired and supported the performance and achievement of others. Many in the community depend on the leadership provided by this diverse team to make decisions about their day-to-day operations, including our schools, long-term care facilities, churches, businesses, and individuals. They have demonstrated a positive attitude toward their work, responsibilities, coworkers, and customers while serving as a role model for others. While this response is the definition of the role of public health, this group is made up of employees from many different departments who came together to share their expertise and create a complete, well-thought-out response. I assume they will continue to work together until this pandemic is over and use what they've learned to respond to future crises. I want to congratulate them on being selected for our Employee Group of the Year. Thank you.
Well, I'm pleased to have on the group today to present our 2020 Group Achievement Award to the Wright County COVID-19 Incident Response Team. We have a large number of people from many departments that were involved in this effort this year. Certainly, COVID-19 has been an unprecedented time for both the world, but also for Wright County, and it's been an excellent show of departments collaborating and working together. I'm very proud of what I've seen in the last year from the employees. So I can't think of a group that's more deserving of this award for 2020. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, and I just want to thank our nominator, who's one of our team members in public health, as well as the committee for honoring us with this recognition. Obviously a huge group effort that's ongoing, and I know the team has just shown an incredible amount of resilience and persistence with a response that has just been kind of ever-changing and challenging. And they continue to meet that challenge every day. I can't be more proud to be part of this group. I really appreciate the honor as well.
Well, congratulations to
Yeah,
all those, and I'd like to read off a few other ones that had been nominated for Employee of the Year, and then we will talk about the other group nominations, and then everybody that was involved in that COVID-19 incident response team, which was a heavy lift dealing with all that this year. So again, the two Employees of the Year was Alan Wilczek and Heather Lemieux. Again, congratulations to both of those, and thank you those that nominated them. Other nominations, Employees of the Year was Tim Dahl from Admin, Terry Pieram from Planning and Zoning, Barry Reinberger from Planning and Zoning, and I do apologize if I misspeak somebody's name. Kristen Hoy from the Sheriff's Office, Sarah Brown from Health and Human Services, Pam Johnson from Health and Human Services, Valerie Stoll from Health and Human Services, Mindy Watson from Health and Human Services, John Thelberg from Health and Human Services, Angela Marty from Health and Human Services, Joy Decker from Health and Human Services, Molly Raisler from Health and Human Services, Brandy Volbrecht from Health and Human Services, Amanda Anderson from Health and Human Services, Jill Netstead from Health and Human Services, Allison Dudkek from Health and Human Services, Shauna Script from Auditor Treasurer's Office, Joshua Fox from IT, Mark Kellogg from IT, and Kelly Hildrake from Health and Human Services. So again, congratulations to those that were nominated and to those that had gotten Employee of the Year. Group of the Year, Commissioner Vetch.
I am honored to read the names of those that were part of the Group of the Year for the Wright County COVID-19 Incident Response Team. Number one there is our Administrator Lee Kelly. There's Eric Leander, Joel Torkelson, Eleanor Vancy, Banas, Jamie Goodrum Schwartz, Benjamin Grimm, Abby Wacker, Tim Dahl, Terry Burkhart, James Odell, Casey Hain, Mary Neseth, John Young, Rebecca Graham, Jacob Anson, Christine Partlow, Kate Dahl, Megan Ward, Allison Dudek, Catherine Main, Kelsey Collier, Richard Ward, Shelley Stotko, Shelley Layer, Cecilia Webb, Michelle Raymond, Jenna Johnson, Valerie Stoll, Marcia Kutz, Chastity Booth, Patricia Larson, Allison Tesmer, Ellen, probably not get this name right. Chipperly, thank you. Sarah Grosich, Kimberly Johnson, Seth Hansen, Ann Olson, and Katie Rathmanner. Christy Rathmanner, and it was nominated by Patty Melchek.
So again, congratulations to that group. It was nice to see all those different departments come together to solve, well, I shouldn't say solve, but to work on the issue that's been forefront for everybody here in the county and in the United States. Mike.
Yes, recognizing also, Mr. Chair, other nominations for the Group of the Year out of the Recorder's Office: Jeannie Lewandowski, Mary Cogley, Kathleen Albers, Ann Latour, Michelle Gardner, Michelle Thielen, Lori Westfall, Casey Badeau, and Kelly Day. Also nominated for Group of the Year from the maintenance staff: Peter Kyle, Kevin Worcester, Robert Burns, John Pregler, Dana Oliver, James Gulliford, and Anthony Bussman. Congratulations.
Mary, CIA.
Okay, for the IT department, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Okay, Andrea Benedict, Brian Hilden, Christopher Greenwald, Connie Mae Cooper, David Angel, Frank Petita, Jacob Swanson, Jason Brown, Jason Bannock, Jennifer Rassett, Jesus Castillo,
Jesus.
Jesus, yes.
Jesus.
I'm sorry, my Spanish is not as good as it once was. Jolette Adelman, Joshua Fox, Kevin Kaczynski, Mark Stoller, Mark Kellogg, Michael Jankala, that could be wrong, Patrick Spod, Rebecca Murphy, Regina Hughes, Scott Whelan, Shelley Kremel, and Tao Fa, and Matt Fomby. Congratulations to you.
Chris?
Yeah, other group nominated was the Wright County Court Services, Mike McMillan, Margaret Munson, Tom Fedema, Abe Abrahamson, Jessica Miller, Alex Herman, Tessa McDonald, Carter Deers, Barbara Lee, Becky Wendler, Sarah Denzer, Derek Beyer, Robert Emmer, Haley Henson, Patrick Levine, Christopher Yankee, Ross Junkie, Janelle Webb, Carol Bernal, Darnell Bretthorst, Edward Anderson, Jessica Erickson, Joe Backus, Laura Fiedler, Krista Lee, Melissa Holthouse, Michelle Preman, Neil Holmer, I can never say his name either, Holmiller, Tammy Solars, Taylor Bursch, Brian Stoll, Nathan Miller, Ryan Bursch, and Amy Herzog. So congratulations to all the nominees.
And I want to personally thank, along with the board, I'm sure, all those employees that did win and were nominated, and those that actually weren't nominated, for all the good work you do for the residents of the Wright County. Hopefully we'll all get to live in the Wright County someday, since you're working here.
And Mr. Chair, I think it'd be nice of us to thank those that are on the committee that put the hard work into
Yes.
looking through these
Yes.
applications and doing their due diligence to award these individuals for their
Mr.
great
Kelly?
work.
Yeah,
We
this
have such excellent employees, so.
was a very challenging, we had a lot of great nominations this year, as we always do. So this year's committee, Tanya West, Kim Johnson, Jesse Miller, Cindy Hole, Brian Johnson, and Sue Virgin did a great job of working through this. I'd also like to mention and acknowledge John Holler and Frank Petita for working on the creation of the videos, and admin staff kind of doing the logistics. Kathleen, Brandon Merritt, Liz Clow. So appreciate all their work. It takes a lot to get this going. So
Yeah, thank you to that group also. It's got to be a challenge, trying to choose the most deserving people, especially when we have so many deserving people. So,
and
again,
we'll
thank you all.
and we'll add this video out to the website too, if folks want to look back to it. We'll have it out on our YouTube page. So.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Okay, items for consideration. Monica, are you with us?
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning. I apologize for taking so long. It's been a busy morning.
No worries. It was great to listen to everything that's going on. A lot of positives this morning with recognizing staff and all of their hard work.
Yeah, so we've got you on this morning to kind of review your department budget, which is something Commissioner Ketchmark had requested. So, Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning.
So just a little background, because I don't know how much you were told before requested to be here today, but in January, we were given a 132-page budget report from 2020 that included the revenues and expenditures from the past year to review and approve, and I took some time and reviewed it, and a few numbers on a few pages just kind of drew attention, and it wasn't a scripted deal that you're here or structured. It's just, I talked to Mr. Kelly and we just arranged in no real particular order someone to come forward and answer a particular questions on a particular budget. it's not to say anyone did anything wrong, but just a sentence or two just to explain a couple questions here. So I don't know if you have the same report in front of you, but page 3 of that board's budget report. Do you have?
I do.
Okay, so there's a line item 2/3 of the way down. It's court-appointed counsel, and for 2020 there was budgeted 218,000, and 311,000 was spent, so that was 43% over the budget. It says court-appointed counsel, and
right.
I know from the deputy work in 2020 that there was less arrests and less tickets and virtual court and that kind of thing. So I was just wondering if you could maybe explain the high number there, Monica.
Yeah, so I haven't had as much time to go through the numbers as I want to. There's a couple things that I think I'm seeing from what I've reviewed, which is the past 6 months of 2020, the July through end of year for 2020. But we are still doing some review of that line item. Part of what happened is when the county went to the new budgeting system, because I'm state and not county, I don't have access to the county system. So we rely on the paper reports yet, which is unfortunate because I'm sure that, they would love to not have to send us paper reports yet. But that's the only way that I can get that information since I can't access the system. So we had not been receiving those reports regularly, and we've made some contact now with people and will be receiving those reports each month. That's my chance to look and kind of watch my budget and see where things are at. To answer your question, what I'm seeing in the last 6 months of 2020, it really doesn't have anything to do with whether arrests are up or not, because that's not where court-appointed counsel comes into play. Court-appointed counsel comes into play more for the mandatory appointments, and those are not on the criminal cases. Those are for things like our probate cases, so our guardianships, conservatorships, commitments, our child protection case types, family contempt case types. And so what I'm seeing when I look at our last 6 months from 2020 is the majority of activity is in probate cases. Are you hearing feedback?
No, we just.
Okay, good.
Answers clear.
And so the probate cases, the ones that are the most common are like the guardianship, conservatorship cases. Those cases tend to go on for several years. So when I'm looking at my list from the last 6 months, there certainly are some new cases and new appointments that happened, but there are also a high number of cases that are from previous years but are still active cases that need to come back on for some sort of action. So it might be that it's the appointment of a successor guardian or conservator. It might be that it's a request to terminate the action. There are different things that happen throughout the life of those cases, and some of these go back many years because often, for people who need a guardian conservator, that appointment it can end up being a lifelong appointment for some. So that's where I'm seeing the majority of activity for the last half of 2020.
Okay. Well, if you come up with in the future, as you get more familiar with it on the first 6 months, if you have something to run past me, or I guess I'd be interested. I don't know, can't speak for the others if they would like some follow-up, but then to see if there's anything going forward in the future for the next round of budgets, if there's anything to look at, maybe modify it.
Sure. It will help now that we get those monthly reports again as well. My budget's always a tricky one because when I come in to do my budget discussion with the board, I indicate everything in my budget is a mandatory service. So we have to provide it. So, there were times where I had suggested maybe we increase like this line item, but I think I've never had enough fluctuation in my budget to where we decided to actually make that increase. So it might be now if the trend, we've got baby boomers aging out. I think guardianship, conservatorship cases are not only going to become more common, but I think for those where there were appointments previously, sometimes the guardian or conservator is aging out themselves and is no longer able to perform the duties. There's a number of different things that we could be seeing. So if that trend continues, I certainly will make the board aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Monica?
Yes.
Probate. So after somebody dies, we have to appoint a an attorney to represent that person under a probate situation if they can't afford one? Is that my understanding?
No, it's not so much for the estate actions, which is when somebody dies. It's more for the actions like the guardianships, the conservatorships, or there's a combination case type of guardianship and conservatorship where that person, while alive, needs protecting. And so the court is required to appoint an attorney for them. And then also for things like our commitment cases where somebody could be committed involuntarily, they're required to have court-appointed counsel. So it's not really on the estate matters, but it's pretty much all the other probate case types.
Oh, okay. I always misunderstood. I always thought when you said probate, that was an estate type deal. So I've learned something.
Yeah, estates do fall under the probate case type. It's just not the one, it's not part of this line item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
That's all you had? Okay.
Sorry to disappoint you.
No, it's not a disappointment. I'm glad, Monica, that you had said everything that you do, we have no choice with as far as the state requirements are.
Yeah, the statute requires their mandatory services for many of these things, so, yep.
All right.
Thank you.
It was great to see you all.
We didn't see you. You got your camera off, or you got
I
a
look
piece
the
of tape
same.
over it. Anybody else have any questions?
Thanks, Monica.
All right. Thank you, Monica.
Have a good day. Yep, bye-bye.
Okay, it looks like we're down to advisory committee, advisory board updates. Commissioner Ketchmark.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Short week for meetings. There was a library board meeting where we reviewed the budget. And no standout items there for the board. And then an EMC meeting that was education training 101 for new commissioners with our own Commissioner Vetch as one of the guest speakers there. So that was good to see him there. And
So other than Commissioner Vetch, was it educational?
Mr. Chair, I did my part. I even tried to ask him a question and they didn't ask him.
No, they didn't ask a question. I thought, it was a very pointed question and they, for whatever reason.
Problem. We'll have to put that on a future agenda.
I don't know that I'd be able to answer whether polypropylene or cement culverts are better. I don't know. The verdict's still up.
That was fresh on your mind, but that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
And that would depend on if you're the Cement Manufacturers Association or the Polypropylene Manufacturers Association, then which is better? Commissioner Newsom?
All right, so, Mary, do you want to do the AIS? Okay.
Don't matter.
All right, so I got to be on the radio last Wednesday, so that went fairly well, I think. And then the AMC, I am newly on the general government, and it was really a great discussion. Actually, most of it surrounded solar, and it was brought up by Stearns County because they're having some issues with the 1 megawatt issues, so they are not collecting any revenue, any taxes from that. So that was quite the discussion. And then I also was on the Transportation Alliance meeting, and we heard from different groups around the area. So our Highway 55 kind of identified some of the projects, and they shared that. a lot of it was more in the metro. Anoka County had well, Mary, you were at that meeting
Yeah.
too. Have so many projects between bus rapid transit and Highway 65, and a lot of it is around the Anoka area. So, but it was a good discussion, and I kind of learned a lot. There's not a whole lot to share, but we're just moving forward with trying to make sure that we get some funding from our state for Highway 55 and improvements, and to bring the 2 lanes basically, I mean, they've been talking actually about that since I was young, so like 50 years ago, to bring 2 lanes out to Buffalo, but so it'll be 4 lane, but anyway, and then the 994 went through, so that kind of diverted a lot of the traffic that was heavy through the town, but anyway, so, and that's about it.
All right, last week, Wellness Committee met on Tuesday afternoon, and there was some discussion on the budget, and one of the things, again, the group has decided to do is work with Wright County Parks to create some events for employees with some of the awards based off of activities that they've been doing. And then some of the programs that are happening is Home Harmony, Healthy Bingo. We talked a little bit about the tobacco-free grounds policy. Healthy Bingo, again, is in March. Sometime this spring will be a parks event, and again, it'll be up to the employees of the county. There's going to be a little survey sent out on what they would like to see some of those activities being. One of the things that's already been discounted is that there'll be no dog sledding in July. So that's all. That's all. Just so everybody's aware of that. But the Parks Department has some tents that they had purchased with a grant. So it'll give the people that have never had that opportunity to go camping at one of our wonderful campgrounds. Bloodmobile is May 6th. For those of you that have enough blood that want to give. They can't take mine, it's too sweet, so that's a problem. May, one of the things that they'll be talking about is focus on finances to help all the employees. A different program that they have, and I believe that's being done by Health Partners. And then a poker walk in June, and that's kind of about it regarding that. Last night I was at the City of Otsiko's council meeting. Tonight I'll be going to St. Michael's. Talked about last night regarding the EDA and some road issues out in that area, and how the growth is going, and found out that in September is when they'll finally have the 2020 census done, which is going to be challenging for the legislators to try and draw new maps and everything else. And I understand there's also a couple of lawsuits already out there that the judges will be doing the map drawing.
Of course.
Right? Yeah, should be enough.
All right, so last week I had a meeting with Flaherty and Hood and Representative O'Neill. We're discussing the DVS and the road testing issue, as well as the variety of other subjects. We also, with the aid of Representative O'Neill, I have a meeting next Monday with Commissioner Doty, the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue, to get some clarification on the tax rate shift for power line transmission lines. So hopefully get some idea of what transpired there. Also then, we're looking at putting together a letter from the county board and the legislative delegation to send to DVS requesting kind of some direction on what they plan to do with the Buffalo road testing. I think it's only fair that at this point they give us some direction. We've built infrastructure on kind of some verbal conversations, and they kind of now left us in the dark, and I think we need some answers as far as that goes. Also then on Friday last week, I had a Wright County Economic Development Partnership meeting. It was kind of more of a recap of this previous year and kind of a meet and greet with a number of new members coming on, as well as myself being one of them. Then after that, I had a 7W meeting. I think it was probably the most contentious 7W meeting they probably ever had. We had a little bit of a heartache, I guess, from some of the members in the scoring mechanisms that has historically been used, and there's some that are saying that the scoring metric that is used for equity isn't necessarily fair. I don't. So with that, it was discussed that we would be reviewing at a meeting coming up what that scoring looks like, and we're having the advisory committee, which is all the county engineers and stuff and MnDOT members. They're going to make some recommendations for us to review and possible changes to that scoring mechanism. Because when it came down to a vote, it was a 4-3 vote on the approval of the projects. So by a nail-biting win, or win I should say, because we end up getting $2.5 million in funding for the CASA 35 project, or CASA 36 project, I'm sorry, in these upcoming years. So with that, I don't have anything else?
That's all.
That's all.
Commissioner Wetter?
Yes, February 16th was the AIS meeting. Commissioner Hewsom was there also. This happened as sort of a last-minute meeting for the simple reason that the Soil and Water Conservation District Board had decided that they really wanted input from the AIS committee on who would be the contractor for the ramp and decontamination units. So we voted and chose Bishop for the ramp and decontamination as a contractor, simply because they did have a lower bid and they have been used already in the county. So we went ahead with them. Also, we agreed with the list of high priority lakes, having more hours with inspections, and that was Buffalo Lake on the north and south ramp, Howard Lake, Mink, Pulaski, and Waverly Lake. And the reason these were picked by Alicia was that they have no infestations yet, so that's...
Are those the only lakes that have no infestation?
I'm not exactly sure, but
Well,
most of them have something.
Yeah.
they have something. I mean, Buffalo has milfoil, Pulaski has curly pond leaf and milfoil, so I think that there's some,
Controllable ones.
But
yeah.
but it's
Some of them,
more
yeah.
of a protection type
Exactly.
thing before they
Yeah.
get beyond
Yeah, there's some that are just very difficult to control. Those
very, very
those ones are
much
able
so.
to be
Yeah,
controlled.
they basically have 18 weeks in the season for ramp inspection, so that was, these are more the high risk. That's why those were chosen, because they have a lot of traffic and, they're used a lot, so.
But there will be inspections at all ramps.
Oh, yes,
These are
yes.
just gonna have a little bit of,
It's just that this would have more hours spent there than some of the others. Then February 17th was the Historical Society. I mentioned before that on their website they have Ask the Librarian, and they figured that this would be a way of finding out what people were interested in seeing in the Historical Society. Well, they were getting questions from people that, hey, I live in this 100-year home in Delano, and it's at 259 Division Street. Can you tell me who owned it previously, what they did for a living? Was there ever a murder here, or whatever, So they found out that was sort of a flop, but
Well, at least they found out what people really wanted to know.
Yeah, right.
Are there any ghosts? Did they ask about the ghosts or anything?
But they didn't realize that the only way that the Historical Society would know that if somebody actually told them that there was a ghost there or murder there previously, so.
Now you have to disclose that.
Yeah, and then they're also making changes in the main gallery around the Nelsonian, and you know, we're famous for the Nelsonian, and that will push on from the Nelsonian. When they make those changes, then it'll have a domino effect to make changes in the hands-on exhibit, and then the resort, and then they're going to have a church exhibit eventually.
Are they open? They're not really open right now?
No, they're not open, but you can ask them, call them, and they will do research for you, but in order to preserve the relics and stuff there, they are not open. And then the manager, Sally Stevens, is working on revamping their website. She's getting a theme for the year, and then she's also taking some marketing classes so that she can maybe form a new strategy for the next 2 years. And then AMC was February 18th, and the afternoon session I attended was the Environmental and Natural Resource Policy meeting. And you had the commissioners from DNR, the Department of Ag, Bowser, and the MPCA. The most time was spent in the MPCA talking about this ZEV, or the Zero Emission Vehicle Standards. And I don't know if you're aware, but the legislature gave the MPCA the power to either accept the California standards or the federal EPA standards. So there was a lot of talk on that. And people sat there and said, well, California standards, they're really strict, but the EPA standards, we have representation there, so that would be fair, you know, because we would have some say there. The governor wants the MPCA to have the power and should be legislature, so there was more say. So that was an interesting discussion, and eventually they said, well, can we make an addition to, poor dog, you woke him up. Anyways, we decided that on a vote of 60% to 40% that the AMC supports the legislative process as opposed to MPCA rule making process for the Clean Car Initiative. And what they're saying is by having the legislative deal, we have representation there, and so we would have some say. Whereas MPCA is picked by the governor, those people, and we wouldn't have any say as to what gets said all about the cars. And then I also was on the February 19th Transportation Alliance with Commissioner Hewsome. And of course, because of COVID, they were preaching that they don't have the revenue from the gas tax. They don't have the revenue from transit dollars and all this. And so they were going to create some, what was needed was to create some kind of revenue for transportation. So I don't like that thought, but I guess we got to go with that. And that's it.
Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a lot of follow-up last week from Transportation Committee of the Whole. Had a brief discussion with Highway about how we're going to put together that information regarding the local option sales tax and some of the points we'll put together for the website. Tentatively planning to bring that around for the board to review again here at the April workshop. A lot of follow-up with the EDA-related activities, getting the account set up, working on the insurance, the bonding. I did have 2 individuals contact me last week interested in the Health and Human Services site there, which was good. One of them I'd had discussions with several months ago, so had some discussions with the City of Buffalo about that and how to move forward. We're kind of working jointly on, I don't know if we'll call it an RFP, but obviously there's certain things that can go in those locations per their zoning, so trying to put together some framework of what proposals that come in would look like. So. Elizabeth Carl started yesterday as our project administrator, so trying to get her up to speed. I'll have her here next week for an introduction. So getting her up to speed on a lot of the projects, including the EDA. Just a few other logistical things with the transition of moving land records over to recorder. You'll see a few board items coming forward on that in the upcoming weeks. Also trying to keep tabs on the national level with the stimulus plan that Biden's talking about. There were some additional monies that were slated for counties in that, whether or not that comes to fruition or not, but trying to stay ahead of that if possible. So that's the report for this week.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to make sure is on the agenda for next week? At this point, not? It is 10:55. We are adjourned for the day.